On today's show, the Houston Rockets hit all of the three-pointers against the Utah Jazz. Absolutely cooked them. Jalen Green is well on his way to his second NBA Player of the Week award. Uncle Jeff Green turning back the clock, and so much more. It's all coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Mondays. Be sure to follow along on Twitter at JT Gatlin, and the show, of course, at Locked On Rockets, free and available wherever you listen to your podcasts, including YouTube. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. And as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day. Thank you for being an everydayer, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you for making the show part of your day every single day. Joining us now to break down the 5-alarm fire that happened at Toyota Center Saturday night as the Houston Rockets absolutely charbroiled the Utah Jazz is none other than your weekly co-host, Madison Moore. You can track down on Twitter at MadmanLeaks. Madison, the Rockets just absolutely scorched the Utah Jazz behind a mountain of three-pointers. They went 27 of 49 from long distance. One of the greatest displays of three-point shooting in NBA history. It's tied for fourth most three-pointers made all time ever in any game in NBA history. Second most in Rockets history. Easily most this season. This game was over by it felt like this game was over by the end of the first quarter. Like, the Jazz were so demoralized and so out of it by the end of that first quarter. 47 points hung on them in the first quarter, 47-21. This game was over after 12 minutes, man.
Yeah, no, the Rockets went absolutely nuclear, especially their backcourt. And so when the Rockets are shooting this well from three, there's really nothing you can do about it. And with the Utah Jazz being a tanking team at the moment, it kind of was curtains after that first quarter. I mean, hanging 47 in a quarter is absolutely ridiculous. And they did it not only with three-point shooting, but with defense and getting out and running with increased pace. I thought their pace was really good, and they really capitalized on Utah's inability to get back or properly find their man. There were several times where even when they tried to get back, they just could not find who to guard, and often two or three players stopped the ball, leaving a streaking guy to get a layup. And so it was good to see the Rockets finally on the other side of these winning games with these like landslide wins. And the Rockets are basically doing exactly what they're supposed to do when they play lesser teams. They are taking care of business, and they're doing it early, and they're doing it effectively and convincingly. So it's really good to see them taking care of business like this. You
mentioned guys streaking in for open layups. How about guys just trailing in for wide open three-pointers in transition in this game? It felt like, again, it really felt like the Jazz just completely gave up, in this game. Now, I will say, maybe not completely gave up, because they did kind of play them a bit even there in that second quarter. Second and third quarters a bit even there, but it was such a discrepancy there in that first frame to where the Rockets just had this massive ballooned lead, and they were able to just keep the scoreboard moving the rest of the way. And they did so with that barrage of three-pointers. Mentioned the biggest contributors in this game. Obviously, the backcourt was sensational in this one. Jalen Green had 41, Fred VanVleet had 34, and then shout out to Uncle Jeff Green, who came off the bench and had 21 points. I actually can't say safely if that's his career high with the Houston Rockets, since he played with the Rockets for that little stint in the bubble once before. So I'm not 100% sure if he broke 21 back then, but definitely a season high for Jeff Green. 21 points, 7 of 14 shooting. We're going to talk about him kind of stepping up to the plate in the absence of Jabari Smith Jr. after his little I guess what is with Jabari and Chris Dunn, right? They got into it earlier.
They
this
don't
season,
like each other
for real. Like this is like a lingering beef, and it's not like the Rockets just played the Jazz yesterday and they're like it's fresh, and they said like they played them back in what October, November was it, and that they're still mad at each other.
Bro, that's beef. Like, to me, it was also funny because it was like the start of a quarter. Like this isn't like there wasn't even actual game that had just been played. The cameras wasn't even ready for what had happened. Like, we were just trying to get started, and these guys are already tussling, man. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's another story. But again, a part of the Rockets' newfound toughness. So I guess that's what we'll call it.
Well, and we're going to touch on what happened with Jabari. The unfortunate repercussions from that is he will be serving a 1-game suspension for the Rockets' next game Monday evening against the Portland Trailblazers. What that means for this team, we're going to get to that a little bit later on in the show. And we also want to talk about Jeff Green kind of turning back the clock because he was sensational in this game as well. But Madison, one thing that really stands out about this team, and it's kind of stood out ever since post All-Star break, right, is their identity has really shifted to where pre-All-Star break, right, this team got a lot of ugly wins. Ime Udoka talked about getting a lot of raggedy wins, right? They very rarely, if ever, like prioritized their three-point shooting. It was actually kind of mind-boggling how in today's NBA, in this, the year of our Lord 2024, 2023, I guess, for the first half of the season, the Rockets were not shooting enough threes. Like they were getting outmathed by other teams. Now, the Rockets are actually the ones that are doing the math damage in these games. The Rockets hit 27 three-pointers in this game. The Rockets have now hit 15 plus threes in 9 of the past 20 games after doing so only 8 times in the first 50 games of this season. So that shows you the discrepancy in how they were playing earlier this season. They weren't prioritizing threes, and even the threes that they were getting, they weren't hitting them. Now they're making it an effort to actually prioritize the three ball, and they're hitting them in a much better clip this way.
Yeah, I think the Rockets have not only identified that math as something that you have been pointing out a lot about us identifying that math inconsistency that we needed to address. And now that we've added it, it also has, to me, come with even more passing. I think the ball movement has allowed for more open threes and better shots to be taken. And since they've done that, they've gotten better and better at generating open threes. And I think the beneficiaries have been mainly Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, and Jeff Green as well. Like Jeff Green has become nuclear from 3, and I like a lot of the shots that he's getting. He's getting wide open shots. And like tonight, we had 31 assists. We had 31 assists tonight, and that's just excellent ball movement. This team is playing for one another. They're not getting bogged down, and even though everybody, like a game like this, when guys are hot, you can see guys start to kind of stat hunt, right? These guys aren't playing good enough defense. Let me go get mine. Let me go pad the stats. But that's not what happened. The Rockets actually moved the ball very well, and a lot of the buckets and threes that we've seen were assisted upon.
And you also see in a game like this, right, you tend to see sometimes teams will often let up off the gas, right? They'll get lazy. They'll stop trying on defense. They'll start getting sloppy on offense. We didn't see that, right? The Rockets continued to execute. They continued to knock down shots. Things looked good offensively. They got a little stagnant at a couple points, but that happens within the given flow of a game, right? You'll go through some droughts where buckets, shots just won't fall. But the most important thing to be like defensively, right? They stayed locked in defensively, even though the Jazz were able to kind of go toe to toe with them scoring wise the rest of the way. It wasn't like for lack of effort. It wasn't like the Rockets were just, we're up 30, who cares? Like they were locked in and engaged every possession. There was one in the third quarter where Jalen Green, like the Rockets were up like 30 and Jalen Green D'd up on Taylor Hendricks, 25 feet away from the basket and forced a turnover. And it's like, you don't have to be doing that when you're up 30, but that just kind of shows the mentality and the edge of this team. And even at one point, I think Ime called timeout, when the Jazz cut the lead to 27 or something. And that's straight out of the Greg Popovich coaching tree, right? To call an angry timeout when you're up 27 and to be like, nah, this is unacceptable, right? Defensive breakdown, up 27. No, can't have that. We're going to get back in there. We're going to do what we're supposed to do. Coming up, we do want to talk about Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet, their games specifically from this one, combining for 75 points, an absurd performance from the Rockets, a backcourt, and Jalen Green well on his way to his second consecutive Player of the Week award. He's got to be an absolute lock for another Player of the Week award. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood is the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar that you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar that you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC is a registered broker-dealer. Today's episode is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit available only to U.S. customers. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Now, I mentioned it already, Jalen Green in this game, 41 points, Fred VanVleet, 34 points. They combined for 75 in the backcourt. Fred VanVleet just one triple shy of matching his career high from beyond the arc. He went 10 of 15, 11 is his career high. Jalen Green, 7 of 11 from the three-point line. But for Jalen in this game, Madison, and just kind of the extension of his play as of late, first off, his averages from this past week are absolutely insane. He averaged 36 points, 36.3 points, 6 rebounds, 3.3 assists, a steal, just under a block a game, shot 57% from the floor, 50% from three, and 81% from the free throw line this last week in 3 games. He absolutely has to be a lock for Player of the Week award again after just getting his first one this last week.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's forcing their hand with this one, dog. Like you can't not choose Jalen Green, especially because we went undefeated in that stretch, and that's one of the biggest requirements. And I'm sure there's not going to be a team with a better record and a better stat profile as Jalen was this week. And I was really proud of Jalen. I mean, he was on fire tonight, but you seen he still allowed other guys to get involved and let this offense flow. A lot of times when guys are on fire like that, you can see them really go shot hunting. And I thought Jalen picked his spots tonight. I thought Jalen scored when he needed to score. There was like you were talking about in the third quarter, there was a lull in kind of offense for a bit, and that where the team was going to other things, they were trying other things, other ways to get bucket, and Jalen just remained patient. But then when he noticed, hey, these guys, I think they cut it to like 24, 22 from 30, 32, something like that. And Jalen just took it upon himself to knock down 2-3 more threes and just
he had the back-to-back like step backs that he generated himself. And then he had I apologize. I think the first one was a step back. Then there were 2 back-to-backs in transition, right? Where he was like the trailer. And they were all 3 from the exact same spot on the floor, that right wing, where he got the step back one, then he got the trailer, and then another one. It was 9 quick points at the end of the third quarter to make that lead balloon back out to 30 plus.
Yeah, man, it was really good to see, because that's what I want out of my star player. These are the times, like, let's not play with these guys. Let's put them away so you can start the fourth quarter and you don't even have to play. Like this was the type of game where you don't have to play in the fourth. But Jalen did play in the fourth so he could get his 40 piece, which was very easy for him to do. So he got his 40 piece, but he didn't have to play in that fourth, and it was because of his prowess as a star with keeping the game far out the lead. Lead 30 plus.
Shout out to Ime for letting, we've seen this a few times now, where, you've got a young guy, 22 years old, right? Chasing career highs, chasing numbers. And you've done all the dirty work. You've done everything you're supposed to do in the 3.5 quarters up to that point, 3 quarters, whatever. Let him go stat hunting a little bit, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Shout out to Ime for not being a total hard ass and be like, no, game's over, come sit on the bench. It's nice to let Jaylen go out there and kind of do his thing a little bit at the top of the fourth quarter. Side note, I want to highlight that offensive foul that he got called for at the top of the fourth quarter. Complete BS. If you've ever hooped a day in your life, you know that when you are moving at the speed that Jaylen moves at and fading, your legs kind of swing out from under you a little bit. Now, I get it. The NBA's got to cut down on the offensive fouls, the swing kicks, all that. But that was not Jaylen elevating on a standstill catch and shoot 3 or a set shot where then he intentionally kicks the leg out. He was fading. Of course there's going to be some movement, and of course his leg is going to kick out. It happens all the time. And in fact, a few possessions later, when he got his final bucket of the game, he hit a fadeaway and his leg kicked out again. So, I'm like, this is the shot.
I'm so glad you brought this up, because this is a point that I've wanted to make for so long, that this whole rule about the leg kicking out is because it's an unnatural motion. But this is not an unnatural motion if you are fading, especially when there's a lot of footage, especially when Jaylen is fading, making a move to the right or left, right? So sometimes he does step backs where he goes directly back. But if he does a step back that is sideways, side to side, he often kicks out that leg. His momentum takes him. Yeah. It is a natural motion. Now, I understand the league doesn't want to call fouls on that. That is fine to have that a no call. You know what I mean? It is fine to have that a no call, and if the guys fall, it's incidental contact because of the fade. You see what I'm saying? Because it's both players are making natural attempts. So I'm fine with that, but it has to stop. The league has to review that. That is something they need to nip in the bud and get tighter on. I think the Rockets maybe should send a video to the league office actually explaining this, because that's a huge shot for Jaylen. That's a huge shot for him, and it's a rhythm shot for him, and it's one that he makes at a high percentage. And so it's really important that the Rockets establish that type of shot is a natural shot motion, at least for Jaylen. But I think it should be adopted for the larger league overall.
One thing that really stood out to me about Jaylen in this game specifically, first off, he and Fred both got off to a really hot start. Fred had 17 of his points in that first quarter. Jaylen had 13 in the first quarter. But I loved Jaylen's kind of shot profile in the first quarter, where even though he's been shooting the ball incredibly well from beyond the arc for a while now, he isn't just settling for threes. He's not just I've got it, or I've been on fire from 3. I'm just going to open up and start, hoisting threes to start the game. No, he has been in attack mode for multiple weeks straight now, to where we've talked about it. We've talked about how he's getting more comfortable changing tempo, using his speed, getting to the rim, shielding defenders, all the little things that he's finally putting together into his driving package, where now you're seeing him finish at an elite rate in and around the rim and in the painted area. And I just love that he started this game. He was 6 of 8 in the first quarter, only took 2 threes. So he was getting it done in and around the rim. And it's funny because it was kind of the inverse, right? We've talked about how when his 3 ball is falling, it opens up the rest of his game, because then he's able to drive and get past his defender. I kind of felt like this was the inverse of that in this game, where he was attacking so much early, it forced defenders to back up off of him, because nobody can stay with Jaylen. He's got a lightning quick first step. So there were points later in the game where guys were going under on screens. They were backing up and giving him way too much space at the 3-point line. He was like, okay, cool. You're going to give me the space. I've done my work early. Now I can start shooting. And that's when he started going crazy from long distance.
Yeah, that's the game within the game. That is the point of being an all-rounded, well-rounded player. And I love that Jaylen is starting to get in rhythm in different ways, like you said. I think that rhythm needs to start inside out. And that's what we saw. I think Jaylen's first shot of the game was a 3. And then he had one of the 3 that he made, but he consistently, I felt like, got in rhythm by running hard in transition. He got 2 easy early dunks, and he had another finish inside. And so that is the type of stuff.
The early dunks, the little Showtime rockets between Jaylen and Amin. Love watching them play in transition, man. It's so much fun.
Yeah, so much fun. I mean, the future is bright for our transition game for sure. But yeah, it's just about Jaylen establishing his rhythm early inside the arc so that he can grow it outside the arc and grow his game. But like you said, because of that, it allowed those threes to be a little bit more open.
I also just want to highlight here, I know Fred VanVleet had an insane game, but at any point this season, I feel like we could highlight just the importance of Fred to this team. Obviously, when he scores 34 and is lights out from three the way he was in this game, that's cool. That's fun. He even joked about it after the fact, after the game, saying that he was like, y'all make sure to tell Ime that it's because we didn't have shoot around today. That's why we shot the ball so well. So, hey, Ime, if you're listening, man, you cancel shoot around for the rest of the year because clearly they can shoot better without it. I kid. But Fred is just so important to this team, man. And just seeing the ways in which this team has been able to evolve and use him in a variety of different ways, right? Where he's able to step up and be the scorer like he was in this game, where he was bombing some Steph Curry-esque deep threes from well beyond that, some crazy heat check threes in this game. He was clearly on one. He was feeling it very early. But right, Fred has just been whatever this team has needed him to be all season long. Whether it's he's going to be the floor general and he's going to rack up 10, 15 assists, whatever it is, and make sure everybody's involved, or if he needs to hit some timely shots, right, he needs to be the steadying hand in the fourth quarter, calm everything down, hit a couple clutch jumpers. He's been that guy. He's been the on-ball floor general. He's been the off-ball decoy floor spacer when Jalen and Amin run the offense. And it really makes me think about, obviously, the Rockets had a really important decision to make this past offseason. Go after James Harden, go after Fred VanVleet, right? And that was a big argument amongst Rockets fans. A lot of people wanted James Harden back, and a lot of people were very against the idea of bringing James Harden back. And I just think that for what this team, clearly they had a vision, right? They really wanted the success of this team to kind of be predicated on the internal growth and development of the young guys. And Fred has allowed that to happen just seamlessly, right? Because he fits in wherever you need him to be on the floor. You don't get this version of this Rockets team with James Harden. You don't.
Worth every penny.
Yeah,
that's what Fred
and then some. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's worth every penny and then some. That's what Fred VanVleet has been for this team, because there was a specific role that Fred had to kind of teeter of when to be the guy that gives more and when to give less. And you explained all those roles that Fred VanVleet had to become for this team. That is so hard to be all of those things for a team in the season, to feel how a game is going and know what the team needs from you in that moment and switch your role on a dime. That is why we pay you max money. We pay you max money to perform that role, and which allowed the guys to naturally develop within a winning context, allow for us to get film on these guys, see what their weaknesses, what their strengths are, allows us to see what this team really is going to be. And he has grown, encouraged, and we're not even talking about leadership, off-court leadership
all
that
the
we know, mentorship. I mean, even the presser saying just gems to help to kind of empower Jalen. He said something about, he's making the right reads. That's more of an advanced basketball mind. But that type of stuff, man, it makes it shows you stick up for your guys. You know what I mean? And it shows the type of stuff when a lot of criticism was happening for Jalen, that he had his back. And now that he's rising again, Fred can take a step back when he doesn't need to and let Jalen shine. And this guy has been critical, and honestly might be, Sengun is the Rockets' best young player and best player, but this guy's importance to this team this year was by far number one. And he's just done an excellent job. I can't express enough how thankful I am to get Fred VanVleet on this team. And I think Rockets fans all understand now that, those inside the arc numbers don't really matter as much when you have this type of leadership and these type of intangibles. Rockets fans, this is what intangibles does for a team. And now we have organic growth within the. Oh my God! I think
it's actually called organic learning. I think you.
I'll say,
Nah, you're good.
It's a word. But yeah, no, it's just it's just perfect for what this team needed, bro. And I just really have to give Fred his flowers. A lot of times we talk about this stretch from Jalen, these stretches from Alperen Sengun, but Fred has been there to facilitate all of that and some. And so we just have to give him his flowers today.
And there's a real argument being made, not on today's show, but down the line, that Fred could very well be a long-term fixture of this Rockets team. Maybe not a long-term fixture at $40 million plus a year, but potentially at the end of this contract, right? There's a very real possibility that if Fred likes it here in Houston and the Rockets like him and the relationship grows and blossoms, then he could be a long-term piece of this Rockets team, either potentially transitioning into a bench role or just re-upping on a contract, lesser annual value, that kind of thing, as the rest of the young guys start to really blossom and take their roles as future, ideally, stars of today's NBA. Coming up, we got to talk about Uncle Jeff turning back the clock in this game, in a much-needed game where Jabari Smith Jr. Got bounced at the start of the second quarter. We're going to talk about that, as well as final thoughts from this one, and the Rockets now being one game back of the Golden State Warriors for the final play-in spot in the Western Conference. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million members. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because it's just you against the numbers. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks is so simple to play. You can make your picks and submit an entry in less than 60 seconds. They've got quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of different stats and players, which is what makes Prize Picks the #1 DFS app on the market. Plus, now it's demon time on Prize Picks. Demons and goblins are the newest and most exciting way to play at Prize Picks. Squares marked with red demons or green goblins get you different payouts. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. So if you've been thinking about trying daily fantasy sports, give Prize Picks a chance. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA with promo code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And a final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Now, I got one more stat for you, Madison, before we get into talking about Uncle Jeff Green and his sensational play in this game. But it's a Jalen Green stat for you. Jalen Green has totaled 172 points over these last 5 games of his, which is the most by a Rocket in a 5-game span since James Harden back in 2020. That's how impressive Jalen Green has been on this scoring tear. And even Ime Udoka remarked on this postgame, right? He talked about, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something along the lines of, right, he's coached a lot of high-level scorers in his career, right? And this is a guy who had teams that have featured Joel Embiid, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. And he said that this stretch that Jalen is in, the way he's scoring the ball right now, the way he's playing, is right up there with any of them, right? And that's high praise from a basketball mind as sharp and a guy with as much respect and love for the game that Ime Udoka has. That's incredibly high praise, right? So just for Jalen to be at where he's at now after the adversity and the struggles that he faced earlier this season, it is really incredible to witness. What else was incredible to witness, though, was Jeff Green absolutely turning back the clock in place of Jabari Smith Jr. So obviously we mentioned it earlier, Jabari Smith Jr. got into it with Chris Dunn. The beef is there. They really just do not like each other, and they both got ejected top of the second quarter. Jeff Green stepped in a big way, and he owned that second quarter. Was the Jeff Green quarter. Like, he had, what was it? I think 19 of his 21, I think, was all in that quarter. It was insane.
Yeah, no, he went nuclear in that quarter. It was crazy. I mean, it's some of the shots, like I think he got like 1 or 2 catch and shoot threes, and then he just like pulled the next 2. Like he wasn't even open. He just took them.
Like compared to early season Jeff Green, like he was like hesitating on all those early season threes, right? Like he'd kind of pump fake, or he'd look for the drive first, and now, or he'd look for the handoff. He was getting those and he was letting it rip. He was feeling it in this game.
Man, and that second quarter is, Jalen and Fred was, I believe, off the floor, and the Rockets were really struggling to score. Mm-hmm. And the only person who really could score was Jeff Green. He had some good takes to the rim, and he got out in transition and got a great dunk. I was like, he's throwing back the clock. He's still flushing it, man. And so, just guys stepping up. That's all that is. And Jeff has stepped up 2 games in a row in a big way. You know what I mean? And so I thought through that stretch, literally nobody really could score. We really just leaned on our defense and Jeff Green as the offensive fulcrum.
And I do have one note, because as I was watching Jeff play the way that he was in that second quarter, it makes me wish that the Rockets used Jabari a little bit more how they used Jeff. Now, I know some of that is skill set, very differing skill sets. Jeff, obviously, a lot more adept at putting the ball on the floor, driving, attacking the rim. He's got a little bit more of a polished kind of game than Jabari does at this point. But I'm more specifically just talking about the pick and pops. It really feels like with Jeff, and I don't know if it's because he's a better screen setter right now than Jabari is. I don't know what specifically it is, but so many of the possessions that Jeff had in that second quarter where he didn't have the ball in his hands, right? He was just being a play finisher. Set a good hard screen, float out to the 3-point line. And it's not like again, it wasn't even Jalen or Fred pressuring the defense. It was Aaron Holiday and Jae'Sean Tate. And those guys were putting enough pressure on the defense to where, Walker Kessler, of all people, was getting dragged out to the 3-point line by Jeff and either opening up the paint for other driving lanes for other guys, or if Walker Kessler did float back in to try and, guard the paint, it was a wide open shot. Now, maybe it was just a really bad matchup, and maybe that's why it looked as good as it did. But it just made me really wish that we could see a little bit more of that kind of play from Jabari, especially now that he's been the Rockets' full-time 5 for a little while. There's something a little left to be desired from Jabari's pick and pop game at this point.
Yeah, I just think we really tend to let Amon be the screener right now. And just because we don't have another role for him other than screen and roll and as the backside cutter. So I just think that for the offense, that's what it is. But there's other things that Jabari can do, like be more aggressive attacking closeouts. I think that's something he really needs to work on this offseason because you can see when Jeff Green attacks the closeout, he attacks it with some power.
Gusto.
Yeah, right. And we need Jabari. I know that's not his game, but even more so, 3-4 dribbles inside the arc, taking a good free throw line jump shot. That's just money. You know what I mean? Like for Jabari, that's a good shot. You know what I mean? For Jabari, that can be his layup. And so it'll be good to see him mix some of that in and just drive a little. I like his drives to be a little bit harder, his takes to be a bit harder, but he doesn't have the athleticism. He's not as fluid just yet. So it might be just a little bit of that polish.
And now, unfortunately for the Rockets, they will be without Jabari in the starting line, or just at all, actually. Just no Jabari Smith Jr. for the Monday night game against the Blazers. It's an unfortunate loss for them. I don't want to say it's not a major loss. He hasn't been playing his best as of late, but at the same time, the Rockets, they're playing the Blazers. It should be an easy win. Now, the last time the Blazers were in Houston at Toyota Center, it wound up being an unfortunate loss. So maybe we're looking down the barrel at a trap game here. But I think the obvious, fix is Jock Landale gets inserted into the starting lineup. You call it a day. It's just unfortunate for a team that's already lost a lot of their depth to lose yet another piece. Now, hopefully, it comes against a very, very bad opponent. The Blazers, they should be able to take care of business against them. Now, my only concern here is this is a Blazers team, especially Anthony Simons, who probably wants some revenge on Jalen Green after the last time these two teams played. So I am a little worried that the Blazers might come in here with a bit of a chip on their shoulder, but the Rockets are going to have to find a way to do it without Jabari in the middle this time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough because they also have DeAndre Ayton, who's been playing a lot better lately. And so, losing a guy with that type of size is going to hurt us. And now the Rockets have to have a choice to make. Do they want to start Landale and take away their spacing so they can have a bigger body to guard Ayton, or do they want to go with Jeff Green to preserve the spacing but lose some toughness inside, rebounding and defensively? So it's going to be a tough decision, but these Rockets should be able to take care of business. But Jabari, I understand you got to defend yourself, dog. I really do, but your team needs you right now, dog. I think this is a good learning.
I also don't think he should have been suspended a game. I don't
think he should have been suspended, but you can't be throwing them little chicken wings. I'm sorry. First of all, I understand you have to throw something back because he threw the first one at you, but y'all both look silly because y'all was 5 feet apart. So you know what I mean? Just show some patience.
Squaring up from 5 feet apart is a little funny.
Yeah, it really was, and that's when you get them chicken wings and everybody like, y'all can't fight. But it's okay. But it's okay. I understand you got to defend yourself. I know how it looks. It's all good. But Young Buck, we need you right now. We are shorthanded inside, and so we need you to be on this court because we are making a playoff push. We are making a playoff push, and I know you got something to say about that push.
I do, and but really quickly before we talk about, because it's very exciting. The race is razor thin right now, man. It's going to be it's going to be a photo finish for the Rockets to get into the play-in tournament, and my God, would it be so satisfying. But I got to ask you, I think I would start Jock Landale, if only because I also think that Jeff Green is a guy that you maybe don't want to lean into that right out of the gate. Even though he's been playing out of his mind, Jeff's also a guy that you don't want to tax too much, right? You don't want to give, Jeff 30, 35 minutes plus a night. You don't want to lean on him too heavily. And Jock's been playing some really impressive basketball. So even though it kind of messes with the spacing, if I'm Ime Udoka, I'm starting Jock Landale and going to Jeff Green kind of in that second unit as well, because Jeff is a nice stabilizing force for that second unit, which, again, that lineup that they had out there against the Jazz, right? It was Aaron Holiday, Reggie Bullock, Jae'Sean Tate, Jeff Green, and Jock Landale. Not the best second unit of all time. So you got to find a way to stagger the guys that can generate their own looks and actually get you some buckets. If you're Ime Udoka, are you starting Jock Landale or are you starting Jeff Green against the Blazers?
I think I would start Jeff Green for the space. Okay. I think right now the Rockets offense has been our best thing, and I kind of wouldn't want to mess up that spacing. But I do hear you. You know what I mean? I do hear you. But we're just shorthanded. We're shorthanded right now, and it's going to be tough. I mean, I wonder if Jae'Sean Tate might even be an option, but probably not. But yeah, if Aiden becomes a problem, I think Landale and both Jeff Green will see a lot of minutes. Well, they're going to see a lot of minutes regardless, but maybe minutes together as well.
I'm just going to, sleeper pick, Boban. Start Boban. Call it a day.
Oh, my
God. Look, you know what? We're joking, but I'm going to call it right now. I bet we actually get some Boban rotation minutes against the Blazers. I'm calling it right now. We're going to get a little bit of it'll be 4 minutes of Boban rotation minutes, because we saw it earlier this season. Ime's done it before, so I'm calling it right now. Lack of depth. They're going for some Boban minutes when DeAndre Ayton's out there on the floor. Last thing here, the Rockets are now officially 1 game back of the Golden State Warriors for that final play-in spot in the Western Conference. Shout out to the Minnesota Timberwolves and former Rockets assistant coach and stalwart from the RGV Vipers, Chris Finch, who has been doing magical things with the T-Wolves. They won against the Golden State Warriors 114-110 on Sunday, pushing the Warriors again. I think they're running a 2-game losing streak now, if I'm not mistaken. But they are right there. Yeah, 2-game losing streak for the Warriors. Rockets now 1 game back. And man, Madison, I need it so bad. Having the Warriors bounced from the play-in tournament and for the Rockets to squeeze in that last spot. And then this is the little side note to pay attention to here. If the Rockets do get that final play-in spot, that means they get to face the Lakers in a single elimination game, which sounds awful because, let's face it, Adam Silver and the refs would love to have the Lakers in the playoffs. So that might not be great. We might be in for a Scott Foster masterclass yet again. But I would love to see all of that come to fruition, and we are so close. This team is on an absolute heater, and it kind of feels reminiscent. Shout out to a good friend of the program, Roosh Williams, who I think said this online, but it feels reminiscent of when the Rockets lost Yao Ming and went on to win 22 games before, right? You overcome all the adversity and you're everybody's counting you out. It's their season's over, whatever. And hell, we kind of thought that, right? The moment LP went down, we were season's a bust now. There's no way they make the play in. And they've proved all of us wrong.
I think the Rockets, as the underdogs right now, are playing free. You know what I mean? And as the hunters right now. And I think that's a identity that they're building and that I think they're relishing right now. And it'd be just excellent to get to play the Lakers in the play-in and then actually bouncing them and somehow getting Denver in the first round. I mean, I'm just dreaming right now, but it is all possible. What if we got Denver in the first round, which we are 3-1 against in the series? We probably still lose, but I think that'd be a really fun series and a great experience for the Rockets in the playoffs. But I think that's just a little bit ahead of time right now. That's just my dreams coming true right now. I understand.
No, you don't forget all that. No, we're manifesting that. We're manifesting that right here at Locked On Rockets.
But I will say, this is getting really close. And there is a built-in playoff game in this regular season against the Golden State Warriors, y'all. We got to go out and support on that game against the Golden State Warriors. Both teams know what's at stake, and that'll be its own pseudo playoff game. Like our real first kind of taste of little playoff experience, because the Warriors will come to play that game. I promise you.
And you know who else is probably going to come to play that game, and it's going to be hilarious when it happens? The NBA is going to assign Scott Foster to that game, or Tony Brothers. It's Garrett. At this point, like I'm just pencil it in. It's going to be a Scott Foster game, and it's going to be awful. The moment Rockets fans see that, because shout out to Adam Spolane from Sports Talk 610 or Sports 610 Radio. I apologize for butchering that. But he always tweets out like the referee assignments whenever it's like a juicy referee assignment. He's gonna be all over that morning. The moment they announce Scott Foster's officiating Rockets Warriors. Oh my God, I might lose it once I see that news. But on that note, Madison, you know the drill. Let everybody know where to track you down at, man.
You can find me on Twitter at MadmanLeaks. Come talk Rockets basketball with me.
That's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Rockets. As always, thank you so much for checking out the show. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.